Hey everyone, so today I am pretty excited because this is going to be the very first video in what will be a very long series of videos regarding integrating night vision into your firearms world. Now this is something that I've known I've needed to do for a very long time. However, the cost and my lack of familiarity with it and my lack of knowledge on it is what really kept me away for so long. However, things started lining up in a way that made things a little bit easier for me, and I'll be explaining what some of those things are and what made this a little bit more accessible over the course of these videos. But just to kind of introduce here, we're going to be going over the type of stuff I'm going to be at least starting the series with and using predominantly early on. And a lot of this stuff is going to change, and it's going to give us kind of a good reference point of where we're starting, as well as for me where I'm starting. And when we look back in a year or 2 years or 3 years or however long, we'll probably be able to laugh at ourselves and all have a good time. So with that being said, I have zero experience really with night shooting other than the little bit that I've been doing in the last couple weeks. I don't have any formal training on it. I was in the military, but I was a crew chief, so I was just fixing fighter jets, so no time behind night vision stuff at all. So I'm coming from a place of total ignorance. Now, I want to explain that clearly because I don't want you to be looking to this series of videos to have me be a subject matter expert or anything like that, or any stretch of the imagination there. My goal with this series of videos is to talk about this from a layperson's perspective, and hopefully allow you to learn along with me, so you can learn through my mistakes, learn through the gear that I'm using to hopefully better educate yourself on the things that you're going to want to do. And now part of the series will be me going and taking training from people who do know what they're talking about, but I just want to make it very clear that that is not me at this moment in time. Now, if you're watching this video, odds are you've done a lot of other research on the topic of night vision and different types of gear and equipment out there, and there's a lot of really good information out there. People like John Lovell's putting out good information, TNVC's putting out good information, Sage Dynamics is putting out good information. There's a lot of really good information out there. However, or Grantham is also putting out good information. The problem that I personally run into with a lot of these sources is, while they're putting out very good information, they're doing it from a very high level perspective, and I feel like some of the things that they're trying to communicate are being lost in translation, because we're even working on different vocabularies. When I hear them talking about photonic barriers, until I took the time to Google what that meant myself, I was like, yeah, these illuminators will help you deal with photonic barriers. I'm like, yeah, photonic barriers. I didn't know what that meant. And so when you get to that super high level of understanding, you have extremely valuable information to get across, but a lot of that information just kind of gets mixed up in the signals. And hopefully, coming from my layperson's perspective, hopefully I'll be able to articulate the little bit of knowledge that I am gaining across this experience a little bit better. Now, for this first introduction video, I'm going to be trying to break it up into two separate videos, one talking about my helmet and one talking about the gun that I'm predominantly going to be using for this, at least to start out. That way it's a little bit easier to digest and a little bit easier to keep track of and stay aware of what's going on. So when I post this video, I'm going to be posting videos simultaneously about this helmet and about this gun here. Now, if you've made it this far, then I probably don't need to convince you. However, I do think it's worth me sharing the story that made it abundantly clear to me that night vision is something I need to invest in. And so I've heard a story that took place during the Bundy Ranch, and whatever your feelings are about the Bundy Ranch, the legitimacy or lack thereof potentially of the events that transpired there, there was a very good story that I heard that took place during that ordeal. So there was two gentlemen who were doing the night patrol around the perimeter, and they were doing so because they were in charge of watching the family's house. So they were kind of in that core team, and they all had night vision equipment available to them. So they're doing their patrol around the perimeter of the property, and they're looking in towards the base camp where everyone else who showed up to help participate was at. And they were talking about just the total lack of light discipline, i.e. people taking off flashlights left and right, leaving lights on, leaving, just really making their presence very well known and making it very clear to anyone who could have been watching what the layout of the camp was, where people were, what kind of stuff they had, and all that. And these two guys who are walking around the perimeter realized that looking at these people, if the BLM or the federal government in general wanted to make their move and, disperse the protesters, let's say, they could have done it without anyone knowing what was happening. All of those people at the camp, while they may have had flashlights, if fire had started coming in from any direction really, under the use of night vision on behalf of any of those agents, I guess long story short, they would have been screwed. They would have had no idea where that fire was coming from, how to coordinate, how to respond to that. And it and again, I'm maybe not articulating it in the best way, but it shows just how much of a disadvantage you're at if you have zero ability to operate at night. And I will say personally that for a long time I thought that I was good enough because I had a white light on my gun. I've got a flashlight, that's more than enough for me to do anything that I need to at night. And just from the very limited experience, just the couple of hours that I've got behind this PVS 14, I could not have been more wrong. The difference in capability from going from just a white light to a night vision monocular or binocular or whatever else you're going to use is enormous. It's excuse the pun, it's literally night and day. So
Cool.
again, hearing that story mixed with some of the other experiences that I've heard about from other people, it really showed just how important this was. However, it's obviously a very expensive thing to get into. So again, hopefully with this series of videos, I'm going to be talking about different products, comparing them to other products, letting you figure out hopefully for yourself what is a safe investment, what is not a safe investment, what things you need, what things you might not need right away. And again, all coming from the perspective of a civilian LARPer as opposed to someone who's going to be going overseas and using this on a nightly basis to take out some very bad people. So again, I just kind of wanted to introduce this series of videos to you guys, let you come along this journey with me, and hopefully we can all learn something together. That being said, there's no doubt in my mind that there's going to be people watching this series of videos who know far, far more than I do, in which case, please feel free to leave your advice, leave your recommendations, especially if you know of good training classes where I can take organized training from people who know what they're talking about on the use of night vision. Please, please, please throw that in the comment section down below because I want this to be a place where we can all learn together, hopefully. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and dive into the first video, which is going to be my helmet setup, and that video will be linked down in the description below, as well as on the end screen of this video, and along with the playlist that this series is eventually going to turn into. So before wrapping up, I definitely want to say thanks to my patrons for giving me some advice on how to best structure this series in a way that makes it still consumable and not too dense. So I'm breaking up this video instead of making this one long 45-minute video over my starting setup, and their financial contributions will definitely help make some of these purchases a little bit easier for me to justify. But again, hopefully we can all learn together. So anyway, with that being said, as always, I hope you get something out of this video and all the videos to come, and I really appreciate you watching.